Welcome to Cinemike. For this episode, we're going to discuss and review the first 3 episodes of Star Trek Discovery, the revival of the Star Trek franchise on the small screen. Joining me today is my good buddy Vincent.
And my channel is P.O. Vincent. You can find me on YouTube, but I'm more primarily dominant on VidMe right now, so go follow me up there on VidMe.
And I will leave a link to his channel in the description below.
I've been a Trekker since I was, well, as long as I can remember.
Yeah, huge Star Trek nerd. This optimistic view of the future, it made you feel good, you know, about the possibilities that are out there and all that.
Used to be an optimistic view.
But we'll get to that. Abrams! We did a ranking of the movies. It's also going to be on this channel. Check that out as well. A warning up front, Trekkers. This review will contain spoilers, so if you don't like that sort of thing, then check out the show first. The way this show works is very different than previous Star Treks.
Yes.
Most Star Treks have like self-contained stories. Sometimes they'll have arcs, they'll run 2-parters. The longest was Deep Space Nine, where I think they had like a 9-part episode for the Dominion War. But this time, the entire series is one giant narrative, all 15 episodes. So the way that this show's working is that the first 2 episodes is actually kind of the prologue to the show, what basically comes before the opening credits traditionally. Discovery doesn't even appear until the 3rd episode. And the reason for this, according to producers and the creators of the show, is that they wanted to really explore Michael, the main character's backstory, and why she is in the position that she's at when we start off in the 3rd episode.
Major shift going to that 3rd episode.
Good, solid opening title sequence.
They're nice. I mean, they look like blueprints and graphic designs, the imagery that is, of like various things from helmets to phasers to all kinds of Star Trek-like stuff, and then you have this Discovery zooming by.
I enjoyed the inclusion of the original Star Trek theme, so they're getting back to the instrumental, which I prefer. There's only 3 notable characters in the 2-part premiere because we switch ships from the Shenzhou to the Discovery. Of those 3, only 2 of them carry over into the actual show. So most of the crew that we're meeting initially are the forgettable, expendable types. We'll get to the Discovery crew later, but we're going to first start off with talking about the starship Shenzhou, which is captained by Michelle Yeoh's character. She runs her ship with a motherly touch towards her officers. She offers guidance, understanding, and creates a comfortable, collaborative atmosphere. So she seems like a good captain.
She seems casual a little bit around Michael, but a little rigid maybe in her performance, I'd say.
I'd say that I initially thought Yeoh seemed a little stiff, but then she really impressed me once the shit hit the fan with the Klingons. She really rose to the occasion and was tough and intense and badass, and it turned out that I really enjoyed her performance. Also, obviously, she's going to be a fighter, because otherwise, why would you cast a martial arts icon? You could make a drinking game out of how many times she said number 1. Yeah. That's Jean-Luc Picard's thing! You stole it! Our main character is played by Sonequa Martin Green. She's Michael Burnham, the first officer of the ship, which is a first in Star Trek, as the show traditionally follows the captain character. Her parents died in a Klingon terrorist attack. She is a human that was raised on Vulcan by Sarek, Spock's father. Small world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded a little artificially contrived.
Well, like small universe, really.
Yeah, so connecting it to the original series, which I don't think is completely necessary.
I first thought she was a half Vulcan like Spock at first, but then I got a good look at her ears, and I'm like, I don't see no points. I don't see no point. So, no, yeah, she's just human, which is kind of confusing at first. You catch on to it, like, you kind of figure out, I think it was halfway through the first episode, we were like, oh, okay, wait, she's human.
I think that Martin Green does the best that she can. She's tough, and she's convincing for the most part. It's just a strange character. Coming from a Vulcan background of discipline and logic, and yet being the most illogical character in the main cast from any of these series. Perhaps it has to do with her repressing her pain. I don't know, they don't really get into it, but her character makes such huge mistakes that she's incredibly frustrating to watch. And the third and only other main character that's introduced in this 2-parter was Saru, played by Doug Jones. He is the science officer slash second officer on the ship, and Jones is Guillermo del Toro's go-to boy for physical, you know, performances, like creatures in his movies.
Yeah, most of you probably know him as playing Abraham in the Hellboy movies. He's a really good actor. He really can emote through makeup. No matter what they put on him, you get that performance coming through. And that's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, Doug Jones is great. I think that Saru is my favorite character so far. His people, where he comes from, is that apparently there's 2 races, and one of them is the dominant hunter race, and the other one is kind of the prey race, and he comes from that prey faction. And
basically, they were cattle at one point, as he describes it.
Yeah, and he says that he's got, like, an intuitive ability to sense the coming of death.
Yeah, a.k.a. he's the very cautious type that is not down for fighting, so...
Which does call into question how he made it through the Starfleet exams.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions about characters and how they made it where they are in this show.
Yeah, going to the first officer, I have no idea how she passed the psych evaluations, because she is the most unstable character in Starfleet history.
In the show, it doesn't even seem like she went to Starfleet Academy. She went to the Vulcan Science Academy and then was immediately assigned to the Sinjo under the captain. Like, it didn't seem like she went to Starfleet Academy at all.
It did seem like she skipped a few steps.
Yeah.
We first meet her walking alongside Michelle Yeoh as they're on a mission to spring water from a dried-up well on this alien planet, and they're discussing the Prime Directive and at the same time directly going against it.
Kirk, back in the day, he really... kind of like screwed with the Prime Directive a lot, so I guess that's why they're saying it's this during that time period where you could like bend it a lot, maybe.
Well, they're specifically sitting there saying, "Hey, good thing that we're coming down here and doing this without any of the aliens noticing us. We'll be out here before they see you."
Yeah, they totally see them.
They're probably going to worship them as gods as soon as they're gone. Totally spoon-feeding exposition down our throats too.
Oh yeah, there was heavy exposition.
Like, she's down there telling Michelle Yeoh's character the reason why they're down there. Yeah. It's like, she knows she's down there with you. Didn't you both get the same mission briefing?
I was like, you are the first officer and the captain. You were the top two people who know exactly what the hell's going on. Why are the first officer and the captain taking care of this mission? Why you...
Well, yeah, that's an old argument for the Kirk time period also. Yeah. But, and then the convenient way they get out of it, Michelle Yeoh made the Star Trek insignia in the sand by walking... I don't know, I thought that was a cheap way to get out of the situation. Yeah. They start building up immediately this relationship between the two of them, the captain and first officer, and they have this kind of mother-daughter type thing going on. They give you some flashbacks to the show to try to enforce this relationship a little bit. You've got this story's antagonist, T'Kuvma, who's the leader of this ancient Klingon house. He's like a messiah figure to his followers and a student of the teachings of Kahless the Unforgettable, who was basically their version of Jesus Christ, for those of you that didn't follow Star Trek before this. He wishes to unite all the Klingon houses again, as Kahless had done many years before him, and he thinks that fighting a war with a common enemy like the Federation is the best way to do that. It's a topical agenda because his mission is driven by the belief that the Federation will impurify their race and rob them of their individuality. It would be a natural reaction to the growth of the Federation because they represent change, and the fear of change has been a big motivator for lots of bloodshed in our history.
Yeah, that felt like Star Trek right there. That I will give Discovery. That felt like you're asking those kind of questions. That's what Star Trek's supposed to do. Asking questions about humanity, about our culture, about our societies, about just humans in general.
I think that the show has done a good job of getting us to understand T'Kuvma. In the end, he truly believes in his cause and that it's what's best for his people. Honestly, I think that he might be a better villain than what we've gotten in the last 3 Star Trek films. I also like the relationship that he forms with Vogue, who was discarded by his people. He's a pale Klingon with no house. T'Kuvma accepts him under his wing and grants him the chance to make a name for himself. He's kind of the underdog, so I kind of thought he was interesting because, even if he's a villain, something about the underdog, you always kind of want to see them achieve something. So he achieves this great honor to Klingons. Huge changes. I think everybody knew that was coming from the previews and all the press releases.
The Klingon society, especially as it was established in Next Gen, the society seems to be inspired a lot by Viking society, and with a little bit of samurai mixed in there in terms of their warrior culture. That's how I viewed them. Dominantly more Viking thing, but with got the samurai honor code mixed in there. These guys, they do talk about honor. They do talk about dying in battle and how that's you'll go to Stovacor and all that. But then just there's a lot of cultural differences beyond just how they've reinvented their physical design.
Like ancient Greek or Roman, and how their political structure is.
Political structure-wise, but with some Egyptian designs in there in terms of maybe their clothing, their coffins, which the Klingons have coffins now apparently.
Yeah, these are things that weren't established, in the series. Certainly, like the fact that they entomb their dead in the original, and actually in Next Generation, I believe there's an episode where they said that they're empty vessels, dispose them how you wish.
One of them dies, and they look into the eyes, and they scream to let them know when Stovacor warriors coming to them.
And that part they get right.
Yeah, they got the eyes and the screaming, but then they put them in no, they would just dispose of the body. They would incinerate it or just launch it into space. But they have an entire ship covered in sarcophagi.
Yeah, these don't look at all like the Klingons we know, really. They're bald, Their ridges are different. They have much thicker prosthetics on their faces. I feel a bit split about them because I'm a purist, so I tend to be frustrated when a series isn't putting effort into continuity or being true to the things that have already been established.
I don't mind being a little bit different. Like, how many times has Starfleet had a different uniform? And how many times has, like, you can see, like, the influence on their ship designs, you know, over the years? I don't mind there being differences to showing, like, an evolution. Not as different as it is.
Basically, to speed through this, they come across
Starfleet communications satellite at the edge of Federation space that has been damaged.
It turns out that the Klingons had intentionally disrupted to draw Starfleet to them. And Michael uncovers this plot, and she has this history of the Klingons because they're responsible for her parents' death.
Yeah.
So she starts immediately unraveling and increasingly getting more and more nutty, to the point where she contacts Sarek, who tells her about the Vulcan hello, which, by the way, is something that's never been established in the mythology of Star Trek, that the way to get the Klingons to respect you is to attack them first. It's not something that's out of the question.
Yeah.
The only issue is if that's the case, then why doesn't every single Starfleet captain from here on out shoot first every time they see the Klingons?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense here, especially with the Vulcan as a Vulcan tactic. They're logical, of course, that's a big word the Vulcans love to use all the time. They're very logical, and they're pacifists. They're major pacifists. They're really not into fighting. Most Vulcan ships are not built for war. I assume they have some warships, but they're very few in number.
It's hard to imagine Vulcans just destroying Klingon ships they come upon.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to picture that.
It'd be funny if there was like a giant robot arm that comes off their ship and just neck pinches the other ship.
Something about that just didn't totally work for me. But then she grabs this information and immediately tells her captain to fire on the Klingons. The problem with that is that the audience already knows that T'Kuvma is planning an attack against the Federation no matter what they do. So her suggestion means nothing.
Them attacking would just help his cause to unite the Klingons, so...
Yeah,
everything she does is just playing into his hands, basically.
But she doesn't get to do it because Michelle Yeoh sides against her on this decision. And then what does she do? She freaking Vulcan neck pinches her unconscious and then does mutiny and takes over the ship.
You do not neck pinch Michelle Yeoh. You do not do that.
She like pulled the phaser out on Michael after the mutiny. I was like, oh, that's badass.
And that's after like just being neck pinched. She got neck pinched, get back on her feet in a minute, which is odd. She should be down for a while, but I guess because Michael's not a real Vulcan, she didn't do it exactly perfectly. Yeah, it was a badass moment. She could have just done the same with, like, because of their bond, she could just like go with whatever Michael's saying, but she doesn't. She gets right in her face. And the moments where like she has been betrayed by her, I really thought that Michelle Yeoh put in a good performance.
Yeah.
Where she's getting right back in her face. It's like, you're going to the brig, you've betrayed me, you know, blah blah. I thought that performance was really solid.
We've never seen something like this in Star Trek before, which you could say is daring, risky, and innovative in one way, but in another way, it immediately makes the audience not like your main character. As she keeps saying, I'm trying to save you! I'm trying to save all of you!
I could save my other family, but I can save this family by making things worse.
There was also a lack of stakes in Michael's choices. No matter what she did, the end result was always going to be the same. It would be one thing if it played like in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, where the tragedy of that war could have been avoided. Here, the war was already decided by the Klingons. They came there with a mission. They knew exactly what they were going to do, so there was no other outcome. So all this crap about the Vulcan hello is a waste of time. Michael is just taking crazy measures that don't mean anything. Yeah. And the problem is that she continues to make mistakes throughout this two-part episode. Now, spoilers, I'm just going to jump to the very end of the episode. After this battle between the Federation and Klingons, there's this huge battle that breaks out.
Tons of people die.
Tons of people die, and basically, the Sinjo is the only ship that is kind of remaining capable of doing anything. And Michael comes to the captain and tries to redeem herself by suggesting we need to capture this, you know, Klingon Messiah, wannabe Messiah, and bring him in front of Starfleet to humiliate him in front of his people and try to negotiate a peace. And she's tries to hammer in how essential it is that they don't kill him, that he needs to not be a martyr, he needs to be a prisoner. So they go over there, he kills Michelle Yeoh, spoiler alert, and then she immediately sets her phaser from stun to kill and kills him.
Yeah.
Which was incredibly stupid because she's the one that pointed out that they can't kill him. So, yeah, it's just, it's all very frustrating.
And she, boom, right there, starts a Federation versus Klingon war. Right there! He's a martyr. Now all the Klingons united and there's a Federation war. I understand, I have nothing against characters who their story arc is redemption or atonement, as they say in the episode, where they did something bad in their past and they're trying to make up for it. I got nothing against that concept, but she just screws up so hardcore. I'm just like, we need a new character now. I don't know how I feel about this character. I mean, jeez.
It is, I mean, I guess you gotta give credit to the writers for taking a chance on making your lead character immediately unlikable, starting off. I don't know how they're going to have her redeem this, because it's her fault that thousands upon thousands of people are now dead.
8,186.
Takuma was kind of a cool character. I thought they did a good job establishing him, but I think that maybe if they're smart, this will become Vogue's story. Vogue is the albino Klingon. I think Vogue could potentially be a really cool villain if he's done right. I think he should assume kind of that position now. I mean, he was kind of he kind of became the adopted son of Takuma, so it makes sense if the honor goes to him to carry on that torch.
Yeah, but I got a feeling he might be that kind of character where the power is going to go to his head.
One of the things I enjoyed about the 2-part pilot is I liked the building of tension and suspense. I thought they did a good job with that, kind of cutting back and forth from what the Klingons were doing, what the Federation was doing, trying to figure each other out, and you knew that war was coming. And I thought they did a pretty effective job in kind of building it up to that initial conflict between the Klingons and the Federation.
I'll say this much, I didn't actually think they were going to go to war. I thought they were going to friggin' save the day.
You did?
I thought they were going to stop the war from happening, but Michael was still going to do something that was going to get her in trouble, and then she's on thin ice, and that's why she gets reassigned to the Discovery. I expected it like this to Kuvma guy to keep to be a recurring character. He was trying to get the war to start. But I thought they were going to stop it from happening at least in this episode. Maybe happen down the line, but I didn't think it was going to go to war. Because I wasn't expecting this to be a war series. The ship's called Discovery. That word means not war. Okay? I was thinking the show would be something else.
Well, in the new J.J. Abrams Star Trek, now they want Star Wars for Star Trek. They want explosions and battles and all that.
We had that in Star Trek before, and it worked just fine.
We get some really nice epic battle scenes in this, in the second part of the 2-part premiere. And the nice thing about this is that actually we see a Federation ship firing back and actually kicking a little ass for once.
Yeah. I mean, the Sinjo at the end, God rest her, she was a good ship, but she gave as good as she got. We didn't get to see that in any of the new Star Trek movies. The Enterprise, guys, just the Enterprise, let it kick some ass for a bit, but no, it gets ass handed to it every single time. The previous one completely destroyed. But no, the Sinjo put up a good fight. We didn't get to see any real battle with the Discovery in its first episode, but the Sinjo fought well.
Yeah, this is the best space battle I've seen in Star Trek for a while now. Though Beyond had a nice, it was an exciting sequence where the Enterprise was being attacked, but I like a little cat and mouse here. I like a little, you're the cat, now they're the cat, and a little fire back and forth. I like that, and we got that here. So I was glad to see that return back to the Star Trek. I had a suspicion when the show was being advertised because you kept seeing that Jason Isaacs was being advertised as the captain of the Discovery, and you're like, okay, but then you see Michelle Yeoh also, and you're like, there can't be 2 captains in one space. And then in the opening credits is the biggest clue that she was going to make it, where they say guest starring Michelle Yeoh. Anyone seeing that would have probably immediately assumed, oh yeah, she's going to die. Plus she's not captaining the Discovery, so something has to go wrong with that ship. Well, I think the thing is, I kind of liked Michelle Yeoh's character enough where I'm not sure how I feel when we move into the 3rd part with Jason Isaacs being the new captain.
Yeah.
He definitely comes across a lot more shady. And, we mentioned Ends Justify the Means type of guy, but I don't know if he's going to be one of those, iconic captains. All the captains are iconic for different reasons now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's going to be able to stand among them. He had an injury where his eyes can't adjust to light very well, so it has to be, dark and then slowly adjusted for light. I don't know what that's about or why that's even relevant, why you would even include that with the character. Unless you're looking for an excuse to keep the ship dark all the time. He gives this really confusing explanation for why he recruits Michael and pulls her from a prison transport where she was on her way to serve a life sentence. I don't think it makes sense why he wants her on the Discovery. I don't. He praises her mutinous behavior, so does that mean that he finds value in an officer that he can't trust? Then he also acknowledges that she has fault in starting the war. So he finds value in someone who's a screw-up? How the hell does that sound like the makings of a good officer? He should realize that she's dangerous and a liability. She made terrible choices that cost lives. There's no logic here.
I just think he wants her on because he knows deep down inside she wants to get back at the Klingons for everything, and that he wants to use her to his advantage. I think that's what it's really about.
I do think his reasoning is very questionable,
Yeah.
A, but B, going to what you're saying, that also does lead into the shady factor of his character, where I don't know if we can trust this guy. You know, he is posing himself with a extended friendly hand of I'm going to help you redeem yourself, but it seems like he might have agendas that aren't so pure.
I feel like I already know the kind of path we're going down with him, but I'm kind of interested in him.
He's a good actor.
Yeah, no, he's a good actor. You know, he's good casting there.
He also has a pet Tribble on his desk, which is ridiculous. A Starfleet captain would never allow a Tribble on their ship if they knew what it was. They're a huge liability. They can multiply faster than a virus, unless he had it neutered or something.
The thing is, we're introduced to a whole bunch of new characters, and they all seem like miserable.
Yeah.
I don't get me wrong, I realize they're at war, but the part of Star Trek is that the Star Trek universe, we've reached a point where humanity has evolved a bit in the way we are. So just for these characters to all be so miserable just seems odd to me. The science officer, Paul Stamets, played by Anthony Rapp, he's seems to be the head of engineering, I guess? He doesn't like people.
Doesn't seem to.
No,
he's kind of rude, and,
yeah.
you know, he is apparently going to be the first openly homosexual character in the Star Trek series. I mean, Sulu technically already was outed in Beyond as having a husband. But yeah, he does come across very cold and not very friendly. And that's kind of most of the characters, the new characters anyways.
I mean, they presented it as like when the war started, like his life was pretty good. He was enjoying his work, and then the war happened, and then everything got broken up, and his world got flipped upside down. Dude, so did everyone else's in the galaxy. Get over it. I'm sorry.
Well, I think he's also mad that in his mind they're butchering his research, because I guess this thing that he's developing is supposed to be used for some kind of propulsion. Which I don't want to get into too much because I don't want to spoil every single thing, but it's a technology that is not in the series at all after this, so if this is really supposed to take place before all the other Star Treks, then you've got to explain why that isn't a part of anything later.
I'm assuming at the end of the series this technology will either A, be destroyed, erased, or Starfleet will like say this is beyond top secret, this is never to be used again.
Honestly, though, he seemed more bitter about that than about what he had specifically lost during the war. It seemed like he was bitter that the war forced him to give his research over to military purposes. In his mind, military purposes. He doesn't seem like he likes the captain very much.
Yeah.
He doesn't like anybody, though, apparently. But you have him, who's a miserable bastard, and then you also have the chief of security, who seems like a miserable...
yeah, she's just... Like, the second, like, they get on the ship, Michael Burnham's character, the other prisoners, they got, like...
She's really judgy. She's, like, pacing back and forth, like, well, look at what the trash brought in.
Okay, I get they're prisoners, but once again, this is Star Trek, this is Starfleet. We're at a point where humans are a little more involved now. She would just call them trash. She wouldn't, like, you know, sprinkle sunshine and rainbows on them because they are prisoners, but she wouldn't treat them like crap.
Later when she's talking to Michael, they're talking about Vulcan martial arts. She's like, the Vulcans should just stick to their logic. It's like, damn, Judgy, you're in Starfleet. You're supposed to be accepting of our cultures and stuff.
Meanwhile, we just saw Michael take on 3 people all by herself. Real easily, yeah. Vulcan martial arts.
That was crap. I understand that Gene Roddenberry had a very pure idea of what humanity was going to be like in the future, that we were going to be all accepting, all loving, that there wasn't going to be conflict or drama between us. And actually, that frustrated the crap out of the Next Generation writers in the first few seasons trying to write for that. And I understand that there's more drama when you create conflict and characters that clash, but you're making characters that are so judgy and so in your face with like their opinions that they're unlikable. I mean, like, I can't think of many new characters that I really took to other than maybe Sylvia Tilly, played by Mary Wiseman, who's probably the most likable of the bunch because she's kind of naive and kind of new. She's fresh out of Starfleet.
Well, she's a sweet person. She's a sweet person. She's just really nervous and out of her depth. You know, she's fresh out of Starfleet, and boom, she's serving on basically a warship now. She was kind of annoying to me at times. But
well, she must be wearing a plaque on her forehead that says comedic relief.
Yeah,
it's clearly she's there for laughs.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, she's definitely one of those characters where I assume that she's going to go through some major development by the over the course of the season and be very different.
I hope she doesn't become as much of a cynical, miserable bastard as everyone else in that show.
Yeah, as Mike brought up, you know, you need conflict, and it's okay for characters to have flaws. It's a great thing for characters to have flaws. But all I would like to see is just a little more civility from these characters, just so it feels a little bit more like Star Trek, you know? I'm okay with, I mean, it's at war, I get it, people gotta get mean, but these don't feel like people who grew up in the Federation, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, she's the only one of them that seems to hold on to those kind of ideals. Everyone else is like the anti-Roddenberry version of Star Trek. I'm hoping they're going to change, open up a little bit more. If they all stay this cynical and miserable, then this is going to be kind of not the most enjoyable watch. One of the most frustrating things for hardcore fans is how this show doesn't feel very Star Trek. Not in its visuals, its tone, or its continuity. The showrunners keep claiming that this is the original series Prime Universe, but we're calling BS on that. There are way too many things that don't add up, from ship designs, to the technology, to the things that clash against pre-established parts of the series. Now with all the J.J. Abrams lens flares everywhere, you might be able to sell me on this being the Kelvin universe, but even then it doesn't totally add up. Where is the walking holographic communications in the Abrams films?
They're doing Star Wars. They're doing like, instead of just talking to people on screens like they usually do in Star Trek, which there's nothing wrong with the screen. Screens still work fine. Okay? Stuff with their fucking holograms, but they're talking to people into holograms all the time, except for like a few moments. And even on the Klingon ship, there's that one point Michelle Yeoh, she's transmitting, they got the friggin' Michelle Yeoh hologram. It's like, you guys don't have that technology at this time period. There were alien species in this time period who have the technology, but not the Federation.
And I understand the need to update the technology to advance in because this has to be our future too. So I understand you can't have little Christmas tree lights for buttons and stuff. You have to advance it a little bit. They went so far with it that it's impossible now to be in the Prime Universe. Also, if this was the Prime Universe, then there should be some augment Klingons with a more human appearance. Also, the Starfleet uniforms. They don't match up with any pre-existing Star Trek. I mean, maybe slightly from the Enterprise show, but that's like 100 years before this. Discovery is supposed to take place during the years that Kirk is at Starfleet Academy, and I don't remember seeing them in that time period. And with how huge this Klingon War appears to be, then why is there no mention of it before this? Especially considering that this would take place just a few years before the original series. There was some talks of battles before, but for the most part it appeared to be more of a Cold War. I can't think of another way for my mind to really make sense of this other than to say it's a third alternate reality.
They'll have like cameos of people from like characters from like the other series pop up just to be like, no, see, this is the first universe. This is the first one. No, it's not. All right, you friggin' screwed it up in 3 episodes. Yeah, you screwed it up in 1 episode, really. There were so many continuities in the first episode. I'm okay with new as long as it's good, as long as there's quality, as long as there's interesting, relatable characters, a good story. If it's a different universe, that's cool. But you're saying it's not a reboot. You're saying it's our familiar Star Trek universe. It's not. We're supposed to be in the Kelvin universe, so
Prime. Supposed to be in the Prime universe. Even you're getting confused.
Give me a sec.
The visual effects are great.
Oh yeah, they're solid. They're solid.
They are really good. They are movie quality. Almost.
Yeah.
Almost. I'd say maybe just a few steps below that.
Yeah.
But the production budget for these episodes is pretty wild. I looked online. It's over $8 million an episode.
$8 million an episode?
Yeah, that's what it said on Wikipedia.
They must be expecting one hell of a return on this. And there's a nice blend of practical effects and CGI effects. Like Doug Jones' character, he's full prosthetics on there.
There's a sequence where Michael is in a spacesuit and she's using her propulsion system in the suit to push her through an asteroid field. And it's really great looking. It looks beautiful. I don't know. I don't have any complaints about the visual effects. There are lens flares all over this mother. Everywhere.
I don't think it's as bad in the movies.
As bad.
It's not as bad. They pull it back.
Slightly. Why would you include lens flares? It's the one thing fans have complained about probably the most out of these reboots. Stop it! Yeah. Stop it, Star Trek! We hate the lens flares!
The Sinjo, I actually really like the design of it. I think it's really cool.
It looks a little more like the Enterprise from the Scott Bakula era.
Yeah, except for like the nacelles, instead of like being above the saucer section, they're below. The Discovery, however, I'm sorry, I think that ship is butt ugly. I don't like the triangular design. I don't like the color on it. It's made of metal, but in all the shots it looks like it's brown in color, which just makes it look cruddy. And the nacelles are square. I don't like the design. The inside of the Discovery, all the inside, the hallways, the bridge, the engineering room, they all look fine to me. I think they like. And there's actually like buttons and switches. Inside of the ship, I like. My final impressions are I'm not impressed that much. I'll give them credit for trying something new, but it's just one of those things where it's too far away from the universe. It doesn't feel like the same universe, There's a kind of a disconnect there. As far as Michael goes, like I said, I don't have a problem with a character having make a huge mistake in their past, and that's their story arc, the road to redemption. It was just too much. Those 2 first episodes, just way too much. It's like you made her unlikable. You need to sympathize. If they found a way to make me sympathize with her, I could forgive the stuff she did. But I didn't really sympathize.
I think if they condensed it to one single mistake.
I'll say this much: I'll watch at least a couple more episodes. But if I don't start feeling something, if I don't start feeling interest in the series, I don't think I'll finish watching the whole season. I don't think.
And you get to watch it for free because you can see it over my house.
Well, I'll buy you some pizza.
How would you rate this from 1 to 10?
4.
Woo. I'm going to be more generous. I think that the show has potential. Visually, the show looks good. I don't know what to do with the continuity. I don't know how you can fix that at this point unless you kind of retcon it in some way and start tying it with Kelvin. You can't tie it with the Prime anymore. In these first 3 episodes, there's things I like, there's things I don't like. The characters is an issue for me, because so far there's no character that I really, really like. Maybe Saru is the closest. This show has a strong cast of actors who unfortunately play characters on the weaker side. Most of them are forgettable, and some of them make the dumbest mistakes in the show's history. So it's hard to care when they don't do the best job investing you in the characters. I think that the issues are almost entirely on the writing end of it. Comparing this to the other Star Trek series, I'd say that so far this is the weakest. Production-wise, it's more impressive, but its characters and its tone are underwhelming. With the other shows, you quickly got a sense of their potential. This also just feels the least like Star Trek. I think if this was a separate show, then it might have ranked higher for me. I like the tension and suspense of the 2-part premiere, and that made up for some of its faults, so that ranked around a 7 for me at that point. However, after we finally get into the real story of the Discovery in the 3rd episode, I was disappointed a bit more. So, as of now, the show is settling around a 6. Fingers crossed that they could bring that back up. Ultimately, CBS obviously has some concerns with the show too, because there's been a lot of production behind-the-scenes issues. If you want to watch the show, then you're going to have to subscribe to CBS All Access, about $6 a month. I would maybe recommend to the people that are on the fence about to hold off for now. Just wait and see what people are saying a few more episodes from now, because I'm not sure yet. But the show has potential, I think, but it also could crash and burn. It's hard to say. Alright everyone, so that was our review of the first 3 episodes of Star Trek Discovery. So if you enjoyed this video, then please click upvote, and also follow my channel. You can also follow this big guy right here at
P.O. Vincent. I do weekly movie reviews, and I've got some new content coming up in the next month that I've been looking forward to doing, so I hope you guys all enjoy it.
So until next time everybody, this was Vincent, and I'm Mike. Signing off.